Picture this with me if you will. It's a Saturday afternoon, you're sitting on the couch and all the chores are done and the kids are occupied. There's nothing urgent pulling at you, but yet you can't settle. You could say there's a strange pressure in the air, there's a low-grade anxiety that somehow you feel inside that here I should be doing something, maybe planning, maybe fixing, maybe optimizing, just anything here instead of sitting still. But then you say to yourself, no, I'm resting, but it really doesn't feel like rest. It feels like you're wasting time. And that raises the question that we almost never ask. Why does it feel these days to be so uncomfortable just sitting doing nothing? Why, whenever we step off the treadmill, does it feel like we're falling behind? Now, I think the reason for this is that we tell ourselves perhaps what is an oversimplistic story. We say, do you know what? I am stressed because I have too much to do. But I actually don't think that's true. I think that there's something much deeper going on, and I think the real problem is it's not that we've lost our free time, it's that we have lost our ability to know what it means to have a beginning, to have a middle, and to have an end. So we live outside a system that never lets anything finish. Nothing truly ends, nothing ever settles. And when nothing can end, nothing can truly rest. So it's not that we have lost our leisure. I think we're mortgaging it, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. You see, if we look at most of human history, time had a sort of a shape. You planted a field, and then you harvested it, and then the season ended. If you were a carpenter, you made a table. Table was finished. You sold the table. There was an end. You know, in those days as well, there was you could say there was a 6-day cycle, and then on the 7th day, the world stopped. So there was a clearly defined end state. Life ran on, and you could call it almost like a seasonal time. And that was time that moved, time that paused, and time that reset. But somehow, somewhere along the line, things changed and we moved into something very different. And it's a world which I think disappointingly nothing ever finishes. I read an article today that got me thinking about all this, and it was talking about how money started accruing interest after the Renaissance. And interest, when we think about it, is money that grows while you sleep. It never pauses. It never recognizes a boundary. It never keeps the Sabbath. You know, so at first that logic that stayed within the finance area, but ideas, they have they tend to leak out of. They don't stay contained. They tend to leak out of the systems in which they first were generated, and they cross-pollinate across borders. And so once we accepted this idea that growth without rest, once we accepted the idea of growth without rest and money, we slowly started to apply the same logic, I think, to life as well. Time stopped being something that you lived inside, and rather it then now became something that you had to keep up with. Almost like the hamster wheel. So the farmer, historically and still to a large extent today, the farmer lives by cycles. But the banker lived by compounding. And eventually we have all started to live like bankers. And as a result, we've ended up living in a world with open loops, and there's just unfinished business everywhere. There's the emails that never end, the feeds that never finish, and work that bleeds into our home life. And whenever we do take rest, we tend to feel quite guilty as a result of it. Now, what I think that unites this burnout and anxiety and inability to rest that we're all feeling is that I think our lives are now being run on the logic of this compounding growth and no longer run according to the logic of seasons. So I think there's a word that describes this modern condition perfectly, and the word is mortgage. Now that comes from the old French word, and it literally means dead pledge. So this was a promise that was made against your future life. So when your house is financed by decades of future labour, it's not that you're really a homeowner, you suddenly become a service technician for the bank. And your lifestyle then requires constant work and toil just to stay afloat. So anytime that you start to relax in this period of time, it feels dangerous. So think of it almost, at least the way I think of it, it's like a meter in a taxi that's left running. So that whenever you're sitting on a sofa and the dial is spinning and you just sense that the bill is getting higher. And this is why, for me, life feels so hard, because when your life is almost like a debt to be paid, rest isn't neutral. Rest feels like you're falling behind somehow. And the nervous system it picks up on this, even if I would say it consciously doesn't think about it. So I would say it's not that you're tired because you're lazy. I think you're tired because there is something always extracting and exhausting you. So I think of it as well, maybe like a phone battery. You know how ultimately over a day or so, your phone battery will go down. Even if you don't look at that phone, the battery drains. And one of the reasons it drains is because there's so many background apps refreshing and doing things in the background. And one might think or consider that our life has background apps too. And this is simple things like mortgages, our expectations, various social pressures, and those unspoken demands to stay relevant in life and fashion and work. And they're all refreshing in the background, and they're quietly draining you. They're taking from you. And it's not because you're doing too much. Your energy is being taken by things that you're not even aware of and things that you didn't even open. It's the background noise of life and responsibilities and things that hit you. So I think for me, this is why, especially for men, this is why midlife hits so hard. Because the guys are saying, look, I did everything right. I worked hard. I was responsible. I built the career. I bought the house. But man, am I trapped. So it's not that these guys have in any way failed. They've done everything that was expected of them, everything that their fathers maybe did. But they've built these careers inside a system that is geared towards borrowing from the future. And the more responsibility you take on and the more you get sucked into this system, the less room there feels like there is to maneuver. And so by midlife, I don't think the problem for a lot of guys is lack of success, because many of us have enjoyed that. But the reason that we've got or enjoyed the success is because it's because we've been reliable, because we've taken on the obligations expected of us. And it's the realization of the life that you have built. It's harder to step out of that than what we thought it might be, because our salary and our toil, it keeps the lights on, and your time is no longer your own, and everything about your identity and your work is tied to keeping the show on the road or keeping the car between the hedges, whatever way you look at it. And I think that's the crisis that a lot of guys are facing. So I would say it's not even that the system is broken, as the old saying, system, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's doing exactly what debt-based systems do. It's extracting from your tomorrow. So it's extracting your tomorrow to pay for today, of which you're even too tired to enjoy. So to explain that a little bit clearer, I believe that you're tired because you have given away your future. And you have to keep it all going, and there's a lot of subconscious mental energy that is going into all this, thinking about how you keep everything running, thinking about the danger zones, thinking about the options, because as a responsible man, the buck stops with you, and if the things hit the skids, you need to have a plan, you need to have a backup plan. And I think a lot of guys are burning a lot of mental energy into this. So what is the response to this? It's a tricky one, but I would say let's call it what it is and let's view the world for what it is. I view the world at the moment as being reasonably, it's extractive. It's trying to suck the life out of you. But you don't beat an extractive system by becoming more efficient. Although that's our natural instinct, as I mentioned earlier about the rabbit on the wheel. It's spinning faster, and the faster you run, the faster the wheel turns around. So you can't necessarily out-efficiency it. I think you beat it by refusing its logic. And I was reading something recently in the Bible, and it was about the ancient world, and they had this idea of Jubilee. And this was a periodic cancellation of debts. It was a forced ending, and it was a reminder that if you continue to have endless extraction, eventually the system will collapse in on itself. Now, I know that this is never going to happen in our world. Well, at least it's never going to happen that we're going to be able to force it. It's going to be maybe forced on us. So I think we have to make peace with the world and the way it is. But I would argue that we need to find a way of introducing a personal jubilee into our lives. So it's not necessarily a giant revolution where we all just refuse to turn up. That's never going to work. But it's a quiet refusal. It's a spirit of refusal. I think we start small, and I would say start on a Sunday. Reclaim the Sabbath. Don't look at it as maybe a day of self-care or needing to recharge for Monday, but think of it almost as an act of resistance. Let this be the one day where you refuse to be a producer or you refuse to be a consumer. You close the loop. You actually make an end to the week, and the world will keep turning, but you don't. And I think daily as well, we need to reduce the optimization mindset. So I would encourage you to do one thing every day that has zero return on investment. So that's a walk, but you don't listen to a podcast. Do a hobby you're bad at, but you quite enjoy. Give a gift that can't be repaid. These are things that you give off your own spirit that they can't be taken away from you. They belong to you. And me personally, I am trying to find another way to live because I have realized that I can't beat this system by being better than it. It will always beat me. But what I can do is I can step out of the parts that are draining me. It means not doing more. It means deciding where my attention is going to be focused. Deciding when the work stops. Deciding when I've had enough of my phone and I put it in another room. Decide when the day is allowed to end. So enough with the productivity hacks, more with the boundaries and the firm walls and the lines. Away with the optimization. I'm taking radical ownership of my life, because the moment you stop pre-spending your attention and energy on things that are draining you, the things that are draining you and things in the future, the sooner your life will start to come back online in the present. So stop borrowing from tomorrow, come back to the present, wake up, look around, and remember that your life, it's not a debt to be repaid. It is something that you are allowed to receive right now, right in this moment. So listen, if you've enjoyed this content and you've enjoyed this reflection, this essay, please do give me a thumbs up. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Is time running away with you? And if you are enjoying the various thoughts which I'm trying to piece together, do give me a subscription. Subscribe. I really would appreciate it as I build this channel. Thank you very much.